Recently, I found this page, which is teachyourselfcs.com. And I think that this is a very important message that the author of this website is sharing. It's directed to developers who haven't studied computer science before. If software developers have broken into the industry either via a boot camp or through self teaching, then this is a very interesting page to visit and to read. Because I think that, as he's saying in the beginning, you owe it to yourself to learn computer science. And I think that this is one of the biggest things to think about when you study software engineering. I think that at this point, if you've worked as a programmer, I assume that these things are not new. You've probably come across computer science in one way or another, but I think that systematically studying computer science is important, and I think that there's lots of things to learn. And I've seen on the web that some developers they usually try to not emphasize the importance of computer science and learning about the theory behind software, and not just how you do things, but also why things are the way they are. And if we go down to the subjects that are mentioned in this page, so the author is defining a set of subjects that are very important to study. So the first subject is, not surprisingly, programming. So he's recommending a book called Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs. I haven't read, actually, to be honest, I haven't read none of these books, any of these books, and I actually really want to learn and to study these books, because I think that by embracing it and learning more about the basics of things, that's the only way we can become efficient software developers. So I like this sentence here: don't be the person who never quite understood something like recursion. You don't want to be the type of programmer who only knows basic coding, who knows how to make code run and compile, but you don't really understand some of the very common programming techniques that exist. Computer architecture is also an interesting subject. So knowing how everything is related, not just software, but knowing how a computer actually works, is very interesting. Algorithms and data structures, I think this is very common. I think even to self-taught developers and bootcamp graduates. I think that many technical interviews they require some sort of knowledge of this subject. So I think that this is quite common. Something that's not as common, I would say, is mathematics. So I think that mathematics is a very important subject for developers. I think that it gives you a great insight in how problem solving should be approached. So I think that mathematics has many applications in computer science, and also many of the programming niches that exist. Mathematics can potentially become very important. For example, if you work with 3D, mathematics and linear algebra would be a very interesting topic to understand. Operating systems, computer networking, databases, languages and compilers, distributed systems. These are all important subjects to consider. I also think that he's mentioning lots of great things here, so I'm just briefly going through it. One of the things that caught my attention was this part right here, where he talks about why computer science should be learned. So he's defining two types of software engineers. So the first type of software engineers is the type of engineers who understand computer science well enough to do challenging, innovative work. And the other type is the ones who just get by because they're familiar with a few high level tools. Both call themselves software engineers, and both tend to earn similar salaries in their early careers, but type 1 engineers progress toward more fulfilling and well remunerated work over time. As I see this, I think that you as a developer usually have to take a decision. You have to make a decision if you want to just get by or do stuff that's really interesting and really exciting and be a part of a community that develops things for the many and that does some very impacting or high impact work. So it depends on what type of impact you want to do in the software industry. Do you just want to get a salary and just live as a software developer, or do you want to actually do things that and leave a legacy behind you, basically? Type 1 engineers who do the more fulfilling work and who do lots of provide lots of impact in the industry, they are usually people who find ways to learn computer science in depth, whether through conventional means or by relentlessly learning throughout their career. So conventional means, I assume, is college and academic studying, or by relentlessly learning throughout their careers. And that's also, we shouldn't forget this, that there are many developers who learn things on their own, who actually study computer science on their own. And it doesn't mean that the conventional means is the only way to go. So you always have a path. If you really like to learn it, there is always a way. The type 2 engineers are developers who stay at the surface, learning specific tools and technologies rather than their underlying foundations, only picking up new skills when the winds of technical fashion change. This is a very important thing to recognize. I think that if you've been in the JavaScript community at least, or you read about people who are active in the community, you can find that we can see many people who prefer the type 2 way of software development. Maybe the only thing they actually care about is React or Vue or Angular, and they don't think about how these technologies were built or what foundations they actually lie on, and also how things are related. So, I mean, if React would be deprecated tomorrow, we should still be able to build tools that will do the same thing. We should be able as software developers. And also, the author is mentioning, currently the number of people entering the industry is rapidly increasing, while the number of CS grads is relatively static. This is an interesting thing. I'm not sure how much this is backed up with data, but it's interesting just to read this, that the number of CS grads is static, and people are not that interested in learning computer science as they are about entering the industry. And I think that CS is the way to enter the industry. I think that you can't really enter the industry and survive in the industry if you don't learn the foundations. I really agree with this line here, that learning computer science is the only reliable path. And then the author is mentioning lots of great resources, and most of them are free. So there isn't any excuse really. So if you're not studying computer science, or you've never studied computer science, but you're still trying to become a software developer, or you might already be a software developer, then you should at least do some type of effort to learn some of it. You shouldn't be complacent and think that just because you got a job as a software developer that you don't need to study these topics. And I think that you owe it to yourself, as the author mentioned in the beginning. This was all that I had to say about this page. I will provide a link to this, even though it's quite simple, teachyourselfcs.com. Nevertheless, I will leave a link in the description, and I would love to hear your comments about what you think about this topic. Do you think that computer science is an neglected topic that people prefer not to focus on, or what is your views on this subject?